Hey guys, Caleb Thornton here. We recently saw the release of 3 new mice, that being the Burst Pro, the wired Aerox 3, as well as the HyperX Pulsefire Haste. All of them being similar in price. Of course, it's going to bring up comparisons between them, and I've already seen comments, which one's better than the other. So I figured I might as well just make a video with all 3 of them together to help you guys narrow down your choice or choose what's going to be best for you. I do have detailed reviews on all 3 of these as well. I'll have them linked in the description down below if you want to check those out individually, but let's hop into it. Starting off with pricing, the Aerox 3 and the Burst Pro are the same at $60, with the HyperX Pulsefire Haste being a little bit less at $50. As far as box contents themselves go, the most underwhelming of the bunch here is definitely gonna be the Aerox 3. You literally just get an instruction pamphlet besides your included cable, of course, which you expect to be there. With the Burst Pro though, you also get an extra set of those really nice skates, and then with the HyperX Pulsefire Haste, you get skates and grips with it, which is nice to see. Starting off with weight and build quality, the Aerox 3 is the lightest of these 3 here, coming in at 57 grams, and I'll say along with that lighter weight, this is definitely the most not good build quality. Like, the integrity of it itself doesn't feel the best. I can easily get that DPI button to activate with a top to bottom squeeze, as well as hearing some panel flex in there. Definitely is the worst feeling as far as overall build integrity goes. The next heaviest though is gonna be the HyperX Haste, and I have to say the build quality in this thing is super great, and only for $50, this is a great value mouse right here. Super solid build quality. I mean, I can squeeze on this thing for days and no issues as far as it budging as panel flex goes. Definitely nothing like the Aerox 3, feeling a lot more cheaper as far as the integrity actually goes. Then finally with the Burst Pro, it is a completely solid shell, unlike these 2 being honeycomb, and as you'd expect with that and the little bit heavier weight coming in at 68 grams, really solid overall. I mean, there's nothing going on here, no flex at all. I will quickly mention the texture on this is a smoother top plastic, and it does make my hands get sweaty or clammy pretty easily. So if you're someone that's sensitive to that, that might bother you. As far as the coating on these guys go though, no issue as far as my hand getting sweaty on these, and these kind of have that gritty PBT keycap feel to them. As far as stock cables go on these guys, the Burst Pro as well as the HyperX Pulsefire Haste, really solid stock cables. I mean, there's no reason you'd need to switch these out, especially if you throw it up a bungee. It definitely gives you that close to a wireless and paracord-like feel. As far as the Aerox 3 goes, definitely a different story. On the wireless version of it, the cable wasn't a big of a deal because obviously you don't have to use it all the time. You still get the option to detach this cable, but I will say using this cable is not good at all. It's very stiff, and then you get like this 1.5 inches of stress relief plus shrink wrap on the USB-C end, which just makes for a weird feeling. Even in a bungee, it still messed with me. So if you're picking up this one, I would definitely recommend looking into getting a paracord USB-C end cable. Looking at the bottom of these mouse, the Roccat Burst Pro definitely has the best stock glides I've ever had on a mouse, with these 100% virgin PTFE feet, and they're also quite big and chunky as well. Super smooth, consistent glide, definitely comparable to something like a Tiger Arc 2 aftermarket mouse feet. Definitely no need to switch these out, and getting that extra pair in the box is awesome too if you do want to slap a paracord on the Burst Pro. Following that up though, the HyperX Pulsefire as well does have those 100% PTFE feet where you get 1 in each corner of the mouse. Really solid, consistent glide with this. And yet again, sad to say, kind of seeing the trend here with the Aerox 3, the skates on it are not great. They are black, which means they have additives in it, so they're not 100% PTFE. And it's okay, it does glide smooth and consistent as long as you're not putting much pressure down on it. So if you're someone that uses like fingertip grip, you might not notice as much, but for someone like me that likes to get into a more of a claw or a relaxed claw and pushing it into, if you have a softer mouse pad too, this will affect you more as well. Just want to point that out. You get the scraping on it because these feet are so thin where as soon as you start putting pressure down on it, you get the plastic frame scraping up on your mouse pad, which obviously is going to cause a drag that you don't want as well. So overall, skates wise, Burst Pro definitely takes first place, HyperX second, with Aerox 3 definitely being a long ways behind all 3 of those in last place. Shape is always going to be a big factor in which mouse you go with, and it might be the deciding factor in which one you choose between these 3. Starting off with the smallest of the bunch here, the wired Aerox 3. It does have an ambi shape, and it's exactly the same as the Rival 3, the Rival 3 wireless, and also the wireless Aerox 3. So if you've had your hand on that shape and if you enjoyed it, well, you're probably going to enjoy this one as well. Overall, it's just a safe shape from SteelSeries, and it's going to work for basically any hand size as well as grip style. The most polarizing feature, if you even want to call that, about the shape itself is just going to be the fact that you kind of get those ends that flare out with a little bit of curves, which for me, I do like. I find it helps me lock into like a claw style grip. But that is basically the only thing that's going to mess with you, so that's the only thing I want to point out specifically about the shape of the Aerox 3. The Burst Pro is the next biggest mouse out of these 3, and it just fills out my hand a lot more, and that's mainly just because the hump is more towards the back versus how the hump is more towards the middle with the Aerox and the Pulsefire Haste. This mouse is an absolute dream for that claw to that palm style grip, and I've had a hard time getting my hand off this honestly since I picked it up. It just feels great, and if you're someone that likes that palm to a claw style grip or a hybrid in between there like a relaxed claw, I would definitely recommend recommend picking this up for you. Finally, the HyperX Pulsefire Haste has about that medium ambi shape again, which is what I like to call the sweet spot of mouse shapes as far as it just being open up to the most hand sizes as well as grip styles. This one does have the widest grip of the bunch here, which definitely makes it fill out my hand a decent amount and even allowing me to get into a little bit of a palm on this with bigger hands. Again though, this mouse is gonna feel great for those of you with like to use fingertip into a claw, and then of course as you get down to smaller hands, you're gonna be able to more easily pull off a palm on this. All three of these mouses give you 6 programmable buttons, which are of course going to be configurable within their respective softwares. And as far as switches themselves go, the main difference is going to be that the Burst Pro is using those Titan optical switches versus the more standard or traditional mechanical switches that we see in the Aerox and the Haste from HyperX. So I'll go ahead and give you guys a side-by-side sound test of all three of these so you can compare for yourselves. Clicks on the Aerox 3 as well as the HyperX Pulsefire Haste I would say are very similar, kind of giving you that snappy, clicky response, with the biggest difference going to be as far as click feel goes with the optical switches on the Burst Pro. They're just a little harder to actuate and also not the same kind of clicky, like snappy response to them. And I will bring out the fact that my copy here, if you did watch my review, you already know this, but I actually came with kind of a bummed out like right click. It was really mushy, didn't have much satisfying response or none at all basically. So I'm definitely gonna try to RMA this, but I just wanna bring that out to you guys that I did get the Burst Core, no issues as far as clicks there go, and as far as comments go on that video, other people are saying they had no issues, so I believe it was just a quality control issue with my copy, but just something I wanna bring out that you guys might wanna take into consideration if you're gonna pick one up. Moving on to the side buttons on these guys, I cannot not point out how much I dislike these buttons on the Aerox 3. Some of you guys are gonna be able to get used to them. For me personally, not a fan. I was able to get used to them, but I don't know why they went the design choice. They're just small, hard to find when you're in game, and they come up to sort of a point on it. It just feels weird and bad, and they're just too small. I'd love to see SteelSeries redesign them. Overall though, the mushiness on the back or the post-travel of them does not feel good either. Definitely, I would say, over the three here, definitely the worst side buttons overall. Moving on to the HyperX though, the side buttons are a little bit on the smaller side, but still like probably 2 times, 3 times bigger than the ones on the Aerox 3. They feel really nice too, not that same mushiness and post-travel in there, really nice side buttons on this. And then of course, on the Burst Pro, you're gonna find the biggest side buttons there, being really nice and chunky, and I have to say, these are definitely some of the best feeling side buttons I've had on a mouse yet. Basically no pre or post-travel, which is super impressive because I feel like most side buttons on mice these days are just really mushy, so really impressed with the Burst Pro. As far as scroll wheels go, all three of them, very comparable, kind of give you that nice response on each stage of the scroll wheel itself, nothing out of the ordinary with all three of them. Then finally down below that, you're gonna have your DPI button, which of course is gonna cycle between your preset stages in each of their softwares. Obviously, you guys can form your own opinions on what you like better, what you don't like. If you're asking me though, I would say the Aerox 3 really doesn't even stand a chance in this lineup here. I just feel overall, the only reason you'd want to pick this up is if you just love the Rival 3 shape and you want to get it in a lighter weight format. And if you're fine possibly placing the skates as well as the wire down the road. Overall though, I would say kind of just scratch this one out here. I would say it's more between the Burst Pro and the HyperX Face. I'm not trying to hate on SteelSeries, by the way. I just don't think this mouse delivers, especially when you're looking at it side by side with these other two. I would say these give you a way better bang for your buck, and I would say it's gonna come down to more personal preference here. Obviously, the HyperX Pulsefire Haste coming in $10 cheaper at $50, and then also it's gonna come down to, you know, whether you want the optical switches, the more traditional mechanical switches, and then if you wanna try the more claw, you know, palm style grip shape that this offers you, or you want more of that medium ambi shape overall where you can get into all the different grip styles a little bit easier. So gonna come down to personal preference there, but overall I would say this one, not really there. These are definitely gonna be the contenders for your guys' decisions. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I hope it did help you narrow down your decision a little bit. I know I can't like literally just say pick this one because it's so hard to do that with mice, with them being so, you know, varying a lot and being subjective as far as what shape and what you want in a mouse for yourself. But hopefully it did help you narrow it down a little bit, help you figure out what's gonna be best for you. If you guys did find the video helpful or informative, please hit that like button for me and do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.